Shout out to Hank Nation, PlugCity TV. Peace.
Let me check my schedule.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy, Project Logic here with PlugCity. Got a special guest today, somebody I've known for a long time, 20 plus years. I'm a big fan of, I'm a big admirer of. I'm gonna do my best to keep this as interviewee as possible and not go off on tangents. But brother, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name is Kawame Curry, Pontiac native son, Yaktown baby. Should I go into my title, whatever?
Well, we just start with the introduction.
Okay.
We can go, but go into your title though. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll let you flow.
I am the fatherhood outreach worker for SOS Community Services, which services all Western Wayne County and Washtenaw, service all Washtenaw and Western Wayne County, and CEO of American Fatherhood Consulting Group, so, and owner of BP Mag.
BP Mag, Black Owned Mag. Let's put that out there.
Digital magazine.
Yeah, definitely. Let's start a little bit with your history, though, man. Where you from? Tell us about your upbringing.
Okay.
Things of that nature.
Now, originally, I'm born in Benton Harbor, Michigan, but I'm raised in Pontiac practically all my life. So I'm from Pontiac, Yaktown, housing projects. Branch Street Bullies, PJP, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I grew up in the housing projects of Pontiac, Michigan, which is no longer there. Those are my roots, man. That's where I'm from.
Well, let's pause there for a minute. We're gonna take it a little bit slower because I got introduced to you in the projects. You're a little bit older than me, and talk a little bit about that portion of your upbringing. And kind of the what I want you to kind of focus on a little bit. I shouldn't say what I want you to focus on, but it seemed like me and you kind of had similar upbringing. We were around the streets. We knew all the killers. We knew all the dealers. But our moms really wasn't going for that shit like that.
We stayed the same road, didn't we?
For a minute, yeah.
For a minute, we stayed in the same road. Yeah, it was, I consider myself one of the lucky ones who was able to walk that fine line. And I actually had help from the OGs because, you know, I knew all the hustlers, I knew all the killers because most of them was my family, you know. And I was one of those little tykes that was like, if I was trying to follow, they was like, nah, this is not what you doing. This is not what you gonna do. Plus your mama gonna kill me if you did that. Miss Irma, you know, she was one of the matriarchs of the community and stuff like that. So she was one of those types. My mom was one of the types when she walking down the street and they shooting dice, they part. They move out the way when she walks down the sidewalk, and when she walks through, they'll come back and finish shooting dice. She was one of those types. You know, she was very community activist and stuff like that. But yeah, we kind of had that same kind of childhood. It was, you know, we know the streets, we know what happens in the streets, we know what goes on in the streets, but we wasn't in the streets, if that makes sense. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Now there was some time where some shit went down, and I was right there in the middle of it. If you go back to them Project Southside fights and the Project Eastside and some stuff like that. But that was simply because people knew where I was from. So if something went down and they knew where you was from, you was a part of it. And if some shit went down and you wasn't a part of it, and when you went back home, you was a part of it. You was about to be a part of it, whether you wanted to be or not. You know what I'm saying? So I was a hood nigga by proxy. The diagnosis. I was hood by proxy, you know what I'm saying? So I was just all about the girls, I was all about the ladies having fun. They used to call us pretty boys and stuff like that. You know, we just did that, and we just rapped. Man, we probably was one of the earlier rappers in the community, one of the, you know, not the first, but some of the earliest rappers. From our hood and stuff like that really went out and kind of represented. Talk a little bit about that, you know, the rapping portion. I remember you, Montree, I think it was, Mondre, and Smut
Denicio. Shout out to Smut.
Shout out to Denicio, Johnny Grapes.
Pictures. But that's kind of where I remember you guys rapping together as a trio.
Yeah, we started a rap group called KSD.
Okay.
Kawame, Smut, and Dre. And honestly, I can't even tell you how we just formed it. We just started rapping, and we was just like rapping together, and we meshed. And we were all fans of hip hop, so we used to always just sit around and listen to hip hop over my cousin Ricky, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Pug.
And we used to just be over there listening to music.
Okay.
And we just started rapping, and we were just like, and we just started. I think it just meshed, and we just automatically started rapping. It's funny though, because Dre was like a Puffy before Puffy was Puffy. He always rapped about love, and he was like a Ralph Tresvant rapper. It was around. So we was like, he used to come to the table, and he would be like, me and Smut, we used to be spitting some hardcore stuff. And then Dre would come in like, "Hello, love, it's me. I'm back." And we was like, "What the fuck?" We was like, "Nah, big, nah. Let me pen you some stuff. This is what we gonna do." So we started doing that, man, and we started really having fun with it. And we actually started performing at Strand Theater way back in the day. We hooked up with God, what was his name? He was a brother. I think he was a teacher. He was a teacher that worked out of Bethune. I think he had the daughters. Oh my God, I can't think of his name.
Mr. Van, was it? Because I remember you guys.
Mr. Van.
I remember you guys used to do the esteemed talent shows with Mr. Van. Because that was one of my first times seeing y'all performing. Black man, the only black male teacher there.
Yep. Yeah. Because he had his daughters.
See, I didn't know his daughter. They were
like dancers and stuff like that. Yep, it was Mr. Van.
Yeah.
And Mr. Van used to do the videotaping and stuff like that. And he used to do that. And then we started performing, and he started booking us shows.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he would put on this show at the Strand Theater. So it was me, Smut, and Dre, his daughters, and then it started picking up. And then that's when we introduced DV. To the rap gang. So it was KSD, and his name was Double Up back there.
Okay.
Darwin's name was Double Up. And we brought him out, and then it started getting bigger and bigger, and then we started performing at elementary schools and stuff like that. And then on top of the Phoenix Center.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we were supposed to get it. We were actually about to get a deal, a record deal. But it didn't happen. My mom got in the way. It's funny because my mom got in the way because I don't even know if he's gonna see this, but if you see it, it's whatever. It was this one cat we used to rap with named Eugene. Eugene used to rap like MC8, like he couldn't catch the beat. He was dope, but it was like he couldn't catch the beat, and he just didn't mesh with our style, So, but we would take him out with us and do stuff and stuff like that. And then they wanted to sign us, but I guess they assumed that we was all part of a group. They was like, "We want y'all, but not him." And then my mom was like, "Y'all can't do that. That's not that's not kosher," and stuff like that. So we didn't take the record deal.
Okay.
I can't even say in retrospect. I don't even know if it was a legitimate record deal. All I know is they really wanted to take us out there and stuff like that. But even to this day, though, man, sometimes I'll be sitting back and just start remembering some rhymes that I used to spit, and we were some dark niggas. Like, we needed help. We needed counseling. Because I'm sitting here thinking about the stuff I used to rap about, like, as an adult, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, yeah, we needed hugs. We needed some hugs. We needed some therapy. We needed some doctors in our lives. We needed some fathers and some shit like that going on. So, yeah. But it's still dope. That shit still slap. You put it over the right beat today, it'll still go.
So, kind of going from there, from the music portion to, and that was kind of through high school. Was that into college as well?
For me, it really kind of stopped going into high school.
Okay.
But it transformed into poetry, just in regular poetry.
Okay.
I think I got more enamored with the ladies. That became much more my attention, was the ladies and stuff like that. And And then for me, it stopped. I know for a couple of brothers, I think for Dre too, because once Dre graduated, he moved to Ohio, and that was pretty much it for him. I think Smut and DV was still doing their thing and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know we had, and I don't know who has this tape. We were all in the studio. This was from projects in the South Side. We was all in the studio together. Now you know how big of a deal that was back then at that time. You know, so it was me, Smut, my cousin Freak, rest in peace, J-Mo, Cooped Real. It was called Dirty Dozens. Mm-hmm. And it was like a dozen of us from the projects in the South Side on there. Yeah, so I don't know who has the tape. If somebody still have it, that thing worth gold.
D12 name, the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, but this was before before anybody even heard. This was years before anybody even heard of Eminem. We talking early 90s.
Yeah, 94, 95.
Yeah, the song was called Dirty Dozen, but everybody, that was just the name of the song.
Okay. So what as you got into high school, what did you kind of more transition into? Besides, we got the women, of course.
Right. Just high school was just being, I guess for a lack of a better term, I just became more of a social butterfly. Okay. I was just all a part, I became a little bit more, by that time I was introduced into Islam. Okay. So I became a little bit more socially conscious. And start taking our history a little bit more serious, started taking the community more serious, started being a little bit more socially active. If you can remember, when we were younger, we was always involved in stuff in the community. Yeah. But I began to transition into using my own mind and doing my own thing, and having my own opinion and being a little bit more socially active. So by the time I got to college, I was full-fledged militant. Vice chair of the NAACP, president of the Muslim Student Organization. I'm leading sit-ins. We're part of sit-ins. President of both my fraternities, Gamma Man and Prince Hall Mason. So, by that time, I was just completely social, like a social activist and stuff like that. And still into the ladies, though.
Okay.
Still don't. Never let that go.
Sorry, but
now, you said a buzzword here that a lot of black people hear and automatically get scared.
What's that?
Is it Mason? Hear that?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Kind of share some light, because one of the things I like about you, you're real good at articulating and explaining things in a way so the average person can understand it.
Okay.
So there's this conception out here of what masonry or Freemason is, or whatever the case may be. So can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Freemasonry is, if I could sum it up in one sentence, is basically an organization to make good men better. Okay. And it's a fraternal organization. I know that there's myths about us being Illuminati, pulling strings behind the scenes. And I'll be honest, there may be people who are up there that have certain powers that might be a member of the organization. Okay. But being a member of the organization don't mean that you're doing that stuff like that. I mean, the Masons have been behind some of the most progressive things that has pushed our people forward. They've always been there, Rosewood, it was at a Masonic lodge that they met. That's where they congregated and stuff like that. So we've always been a part of the community to help push forward and move the community. As far as being a black Mason, which to me is an oxymoron because it's always been our history in the first place. You couldn't even walk around and be known. You couldn't be a Mason that's black. You get killed back in the day. They didn't want you to be. They didn't. That was taboo.
Why do you think that was? If you're saying if you're saying that Mason, we just the same as any other fraternity, we about bettering men and making men become better and things of that nature. Why was it such a negative thing at one point for a black man
to be a part of something like that? Because we met of course, we met, and I ain't gonna say we met in secret because the lodges were already in the community, and you can find it by our signs and symbols. But just black people congregating together at one time was taboo.
Okay.
So when you add that, and then you begin to add that people in the community who were thinkers, free thinkers, builders that could make things happen, and then you get a bunch of black men together who are doing that, it made it even worse. So they didn't like that. So back then you couldn't even have, I couldn't even have my square and compass on the car. I couldn't even wear a shirt with a square and compass or have a ring with a square and compass or anything like that on, because it was dangerous to do that. But, but all that Illuminati and all that, I'm like, it don't even make sense if you even study the history of it, because in order to be a Mason, you have to believe in a supreme being. You have to believe in God.
Okay.
You don't have to be a Christian. You can be a Muslim, a Jew, a Hebrew, or anything like that. But the Illuminati, they didn't believe in either. They didn't believe in God or the devil. So how are you Illuminati worshiping the devil when you don't even believe that the devil exists? Because in the Illuminati, they were atheists. Okay. So it didn't make sense.
So then why do you think that title got pushed on Masons? Because
it's
like
we're not a secret organization, but we're an organization that have secrets.
Okay.
And I'm just be real with you.
So do you think it was because, from what I've always seen a lot of time, dirt always got through on people who were accomplishing things, and they wanted to deter from those accomplishments. So was it a matter of you guys actually being progressive and actually accomplishing things, and other people wanted to deter from that, or
the fear of the unknown?
Okay.
Because we were, we are very, for lack of a better term, we were secretive about our shit.
Okay.
And when you don't know, that leaves you room for assumption.
Okay.
So the fact that we are secretive in some ways, they think just because we don't talk about it and it's secretive about that we're up to no good.
Okay.
So I think that's where it comes from. Plus the idea that way back in the day, in the medieval times, the church, the Catholic Church, was the supreme law of the land.
Yeah.
They were the end all be all and stuff like that. And so when the Knights Templars, who were the guards, the guards of the church and stuff like that, when people begin to revere them more than the church, it was like, oh well, if you follow them, then you're the devil. You're this and you're that, because they would believe that the Knights Templar held the Holy Grail, which is where you get what's the tale? King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table search of the Holy Grail. They were the King Arthur was the Knights Templars and stuff like that. So so when they began to when the church went and had a mass murder against the Knights Templar, was on Friday the 13th. Hence, that's where Friday the 13th is a day of bad luck. That's where that originates from. They basically put it out there like, you can't be Catholic and a Mason. That's supposed to be taboo. And if you're of them, then you're against the church and you're with the devil and stuff like that. So
deeper than rap. Way deeper.
It's way deeper.
Okay.
It's way deeper.
That's crazy. That's a lot of information, man.
Yeah.
And it's always good to have somebody come up and clear up a lot of rumors and things of that nature. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about your company, your consulting firm.
Okay.
American Fatherhood Consulting. And well, you kind of tell a little bit about what you do. I'll let you lead into it, and I'll ask some follow-up questions.
Okay. So I kind of wear two hats. With SOS Community Services, we are a family services nonprofit organization. We work with families. There's different departments within it, but in the family, the family services department, we work with families with children between the ages of 0 and 5. And so, when we have a family that may come to us, they may be homeless, they may be hungry, they might have cognitive impairments and stuff like that, and they need assistance. They come, or they're referred to us. And many times what happens is when, some of my colleagues go into the home, it's like, is their father involved? Is the father here? And if the father is there, they take his name and they'll pass that on to me. And he becomes my client. So I begin to assist the father the same way that they will assist the mother. Okay. So I might have a dad who's unemployed, who's looking for a job. He needs to get a license. He's suffering from mental illnesses. And so basically I find all of those services for him. Okay. I find all of those resources for him. We have a family right now that we helped that were homeless, that we got into a shelter. They're into the shelter now. They're getting ready to move into their own place where we provide. We got them a Section 8 voucher. Usually takes about 30 to 60 days to get them a Section 8 voucher. We pay their rent for like a year, 6 months to a year. And then they're on their own. But that whole while, I'm still Section 8 voucher. We pay their rent for like a year, 6 months to a year. And then they're on their own. But that whole while, I'm still meeting with the dad monthly, finding out, hey, how's it going? Is there anything that you need? And they might be like, yeah, my anxiety level is this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling like that. So then I'll reach out and find some resources for mental health, and I'll connect those resources with the dad. If the dad has, I also help to nurture the relationship between dad and that 0 to 5 year old, because they may have concerns for their children. So I'm certified in what we call parents as teachers. So we help with the development, and not help with the development, but we help the parents recognize the cognitive, the emotional, social emotional stages of their children and stuff like that. But if one of those dads happen to have issues with friends of the court, then I'm assisting with that, So that's what the job. Now, with American Fatherhood Consulting, 9 times out of 10, they're coming to me. It's probably for child support or custody or parent time issue. So that's separate, and I do those things separate from them. And so I'll sit and consult with them. We'll have a sit down. We'll have a consultation, and I have my fee based on what they're looking for, and then we go from there. And I kind of coach them and help them because they might not be able to afford a lawyer. Okay. So I can give them the information and provide them the information that the lawyer is going to know, but the lawyer is going to be charging an exorbitant amount of money to do that. I can't. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't go into the courtroom with them or anything like that. But I do kind of coach them on courtroom etiquette, what to look for, what's potentially is going to happen, how to respond when things like that happen. Okay. Barriers and all of this. But at the same time, I'm teaching them how the system works. Okay. Because from what I've discovered, women know these courts. And the reason why they know these courts is because mom, cousin, sister, aunt, they all passing this information down. Like, well, I dealt with this, and this is how this is how it goes, and this is how it works with the courts. Guys, we don't do that because, one, we don't like to deal with the courts. We don't like to deal with the law, which is one of our biggest mistakes. So I'm trying to get them to work with the courts. There's a big misconception when like a guy get out of jail and he'd be like, where you been? He'd be like, I was in jail locked up for child support. 9 times out of 10, you weren't locked up for child support because there's no such thing as a debtor's jail. You were locked up for not appearing to show cause on why you weren't paying child support.
So hold on. I don't want you to blow by these points. Okay. Because I know you get to going, and that's really what I want to focus on, because here in the black community, in the urban neighborhoods, a lot of time we hear a lot of these things being said over and over. And what I'm not gonna get into the men versus women and who's right and who's wrong, but just clear up some misconceptions.
Because I've helped women as well.
Yeah. So are you saying, once again, just to be clear, you don't, in Michigan, just specifically Michigan, you do not go to jail for failure to pay child support?
There's no such thing as what we call debtor's jail. Okay. You go to jail for failure to comply with a court order, or you'll go to jail for failure to appear for a show cause. Okay. So say if you have a child support order and you're supposed to pay this much and you're not paying, then the courts is going to reach out to you and be like, hey, you need to come in and we need to talk about why you're not paying. Because at that point, you need to tell them what's going on. You might have had a good job and you lost that job, so now you're not paying. They need to know that. If you don't tell them that, They don't know. So you don't show up, and now you don't show up. Now you got a warrant. So now you out rolling with your boys. You get pulled over. Now you going to jail. And when you get out, why was you in jail? For child support. No, you was in jail because you failed to appear.
So
for
let's
show
say,
cause.
for instance, I go to a show cause here, and I'm not sure how it works. Thank God I've never been. Knock on whatever wood I can find. But you go to court. Judge assesses you. Let's just say $50 a month child support. You don't pay that $50 a month child support after the judge assesses $50 a month. You failure to pay after a certain amount of time. Being that it's a court-ordered child support, can you be arrested for failure to pay that $50?
They're going to send out. They're going to send out a show cause to find out why you're not paying the $50.
But with that, is the show cause the same as a warrant? Are they going to for your arrest? Or
the show cause is just to come into court. If you show up, there's no warrant because you showed up.
So they're not just going to put a warrant out there because you $400, $500, $600 behind the child support. They're going to issue a show cause for you to come to court and say why you're $500, $600, whatever, behind the child support.
Right, and then to get out, you pay. It might be a portion of that $500 or $600 that you might be down to get out.
To get out of what?
To get out of jail because you
You're
failed.
talking about after. So no, I'm sorry. You're jumping ahead just a little bit. I just want to be clear because I know some people who are gonna watch this.
Okay.
So you $2,000 behind the child support. Judge has issued $100 a month, $50 a month. You're $2,000 behind. Judge issues a show cause.
Right.
You show up for the show cause.
Right.
And the judge say, why haven't you, Kawame, why haven't you paid the $2,000 a month, the $2,000 you owe? Why haven't you paid anything? You give the judge whatever reason. I don't have it. My job ain't paying enough. Yada, 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 whatever. At that point, does the judge have the discretion to say, hey, since you ain't paid nothing on this $2,000, I'm going to lock you up?
They have the discretion, but it's very less likely that they're ever going to do that because they're not going to be able to get any money. What they're going to do is then modify the child support order based on what you're saying. Okay. If that using that same scenario that you gave me, you're like, Your Honor, I haven't been paying because I lost my job and it's kind of hard to make ends meet. So what we should have been doing is when you first lost that job, you should have been contacting the courts before the courts even contact you. Okay. That's the first mistake. We can go back to that. Yeah. But for the sake of conversation, you didn't tell them they do the show cause. So now you got that $2,000, and now they're going to modify the child support order and lower it because you're making less money. Okay. And send you on your way. Now there may be times. What may happen? And this can happen. You owe that $2,000. I always recommend my clients show up with some money. I don't care how much it is. $100. $50, whatever. You let the judge know, or the referee, because 9 times out of 10, it's probably a referee. It's a referee. Yeah. Referee, know this is what's happening. I haven't been able to pay, but I do have $50 or $100 I can put on my arrearages right now. Okay. And then they'll do a modification at that time, and then boom, you out the door. Now you have a new child support order, but you still owe that $2,000 because the court speaks through its order. Okay. So now you got the new support order. But if you completely avoid all of that, that's how you end up with the warrant. So then let me ask you this to be clear then. Is it when we're talking about Michigan doesn't have a debtor's jail, are we talking about a technicality? Whereas, and what I mean by that is to be clear, like it's not a situation where, okay, I issue an order, referee issues an order for $75 a month for you to pay that child support. You don't pay that $75 a month in child support. You show up for the show cause, and I say, okay, you know what, I can't arrest you for the debt, but I can arrest you for failure to comply with the court order. It seems like you're splitting hairs. Because I don't feel like your justification for not paying is sufficient, so I'm going to lock you up, but I'm going to do it based on failure to comply rather than actual not paying. Is that how that works? Child support is a civil case, because when you first get the court order, it'll tell you are being sued. That's what it's going to tell you. So it's civil. When you get to the point where it becomes criminal, the friend of the court don't even have it anymore. It's the Attorney General of the state. Okay. So now you're talking felony child support. Okay. Now you about to be looking at some time, and they aside from garnishing, they might liquidate your assets and stuff like that. So it has happened. So how does that work? So explain that for the people who like to be technical. How do you go from, okay,
there's no debtor's jail. I can't arrest you for a debt, to now the attorney general has it and you're being arrested and getting federal charges for a debt.
Because usually when you get to that point, it's like you've completely not paid absolutely nothing, and it's reached the threshold and dollars amount. So it's then reached the threshold and dollars amount that you owe, and you haven't been paying because you've had this court order and you've been completely refusing to comply with the courts and anything like that, and haven't been even going to the court, cooperating with the court, or meeting with the court. So now it moves into what's called felony support. And once it moves to felony child support, it's not in the hands of the friend of the court anymore, because it's gone criminal, and friend of the court is really civil.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So, to be clear, for the fellas out here, if you go to your show causes, if you appear in court, it's very unlikely you're going to go to jail for child support.
Very, very, very unlikely.
And you're saying
they're going to probably be surprised that you're even there. They're going to be like, oh, okay. Because cats, they don't show up.
Okay.
So, the first thing I talk to my clients about, I'm like, how much do you owe? How old are the children? Do you have a current child support order? Are you making more than what you were when the child support order went through? Because if they be like, yes, I say, are you making more or less? If they be like, well, I'm making less than what, then you need to contact the courts.
Okay.
You need to contact the courts directly and let them know. If you lose your job, contact the courts before you even tell your wife or your girlfriend. Like, for real. Because what happens is, say you lose your job and you find another job and you not just make as much. You was working at Chrysler, you was banging, boom. You lose your job, now you're working at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. You're making less. You contact the courts and let the courts know on paper. When I say contact the court, I don't mean a phone call. Because again, the court speaks through its orders. You notify the courts and let them know. Now they're going to do what's called the show cause. Because, in the state of Michigan, you're allowed to a free review every 36 months. Off rip. So now they're going to create a court case. You show up. Now remember, you notified them, let's just say this happened in February. You notified the courts in February. Some time has went by, and it's October when you finally get your court case, and you let them know this is what's happened. I used to work at Chrysler, now I work at Tropical Smoothie. When they modify your court order, it goes all the way back to February now.
Okay.
Because you notified them, and it's on record that you notified them back in February. So what happens is a lot of cats will be like, well, I lost my job. Should it be less? It could have been if you would have notified them then. But it's not going to be because you just told them now.
And can we get into notifying them? Because you said not call. So how can you notify them, without calling? You
can simply write a letter on a scratch sheet of paper. Put your name, your case number. Let them know that there's been a change. And this is the simple way. Sign it and date it and mail it to them. You can do it as that. But most friend of the courts, the circuit courts, they have these forms on their website. You can download the form and fill it out, send it in. You can go to the clerk office. If it does cost money sometimes, but if you receive EBT or anything like that, you can go to the clerk and ask it to waive, and they'll just waive the fee to file it. And then that gets the ball rolling.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I hear a lot of people, sticking on the child support topic and things of that nature, but kind of moving a little bit. You hear a lot of people talking about, they go to court or whatever, and they can't get custody of their children, or they can't get parenting time with their children. The court won't allow. I'm trying to get in. Explain a little bit about that. I don't want you to give all your consulting information away for free, because I understand you have a business, but kind of explain to us a little bit about the myths and the truths behind that and how that works if you're really honestly trying to get 50-50 custody, whatever type of custody, parenting time. What are some of the truths that stop that?
Okay.
What are some of the myths that are out there? And what do you do so you can, get custody with your children?
Okay, so myth number one I want to explode is that child support and parenting time are two separate orders. These are two separate orders, so one doesn't have anything to do with the other. Okay. If you have a parenting time, most in the state of Michigan, they just updated it too. They actually have a standard parenting time order now that's automatic. You don't even have to fight. It's just automatic. Okay.
And what is that order? Like, is it a...
It's usually, if I remember, it's like a 66-page document that I haven't finished reading, but I got to go through. I remember the previous one, it was like every Wednesday and every other weekend.
Okay.
It was just standard, automatically.
Okay.
But of course, this is once paternity is established and all that, we'll have to get, because all of this ties into one another.
Okay.
If you have a child support order but haven't been paying child support, and you have a parenting time order, don't think just because you haven't paid child support that the parenting time is effective. No.
So hold on, wait.
Two different things.
Stop and clear up. So to be clear, you're saying that for people who say, I can't see my kid because I'm behind on child support.
It's false. It's false.
Was that ever true?
Never. So if the baby mom is not letting you see your child because you owe back child support, she's in violation of a court order. It's totally separate. That's why it's called the Child Support and Parenting Time Act. Wayne County, I don't know about Oakland, but Wayne County, it's got so bad that Wayne County has now dedicated a judge strictly on parenting time because it's got so bad. But we have this idea to think because we haven't paid or we're behind that the parenting time is affected. Totally unrelated.
So let me ask you this before you go on. I don't want you to lose the point that you were on, but I just want to ask this question. So, I'm behind on child support. I go to court for parenting time. Do I have to risk being locked up for being behind on child support when I go for my parenting time?
And you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant for it?
Well, yeah. If there's a warrant, of course.
Because I mean, you can be behind on child support and don't have a warrant. You know what I'm saying? I would always suggest that you get your warrant taken care of first.
Okay.
And there's court. There's ways that you can go and you can have a warrant. You can call the courts, find out you have a warrant. You can go on a certain day at a certain time. It's like almost literally like turning yourself in without even going to jail.
Okay.
You can just walk into the room, 1905, I think, in the Penobscot. That's for Wayne County. You can just walk up in there. I think it's Thursday at 9 o'clock if something, unless things have changed. And you go in there and they handle it right there. Warrant gets dropped. But back to your question, if you're behind on child support, you can still walk in there. You can still have your parenting time order enforced.
Okay.
Because it's totally unrelated.
Okay.
This is where I begin to coach my clients sometimes to totally disregard. Don't speak anything about child support because this is a parenting time.
Yeah.
And the referee is going to tell them, because mom might start flipping off, well, he ain't paying this and he ain't doing that. They're going to be like, this ain't got nothing to do with that. If you have a problem with child support, then you need to file a motion to go talk about child support. This is about parenting time. Totally two separate things.
Now, back to what you were saying. You were saying the way it used to be was that the parenting time standing order was every Wednesday and then every other weekend.
Every other weekend.
And now it's changed to what?
I haven't got to that point yet.
Okay.
I mean, because it just came out.
Okay.
Now, custody comes in two phases: physical,
okay,
legal.
Yeah.
I always recommend to my clients get legal custody.
Okay.
That's what you want. You want legal because legal custody, you get input on the doctors that the child goes to, the school that the child goes to, the religion that the child practices, all of those things. That's legal custody. Physical custody is simply where the child lives for the majority of the time. Now, you can get a joint physical custody, but it doesn't have to be 50-50. It could be 60-40, 70-20, 90-10. It depends on the work schedule. It's still considered. Joint custody through the court order.
Okay.
The more time that the child spends in your house, if you're non-custodial, the lower your child support is. So you could the mother could simply have full physical custody, but if the child is with you 40% of the time, then your child support is going to be really low because it's based on the overnights that the child is spending with you.
And kind of go into that a little bit too, because a lot of people don't understand that concept of, they'll say, well, I have my child majority of the time, this and that. I have them all day while the mom's at work or whatever the case may be.
Is it on paper? Does the courts know?
But the thing is, explain the having them all day versus the overnights.
Versus the overnights.
And how they use to calculate what that child support is going to be.
So the courts has a formula. They have a standard formula that they go on, and it's something I want to get into, and it's going to be juicy, and we'll get to it in a minute because it kind of goes with that, with this child support thing.
Okay.
Okay. So when your child is with you and has to stay the night and is over there, you have to provide food. You have to provide all of these things that they would if they were with the custodial. And I use custodial, non-custodial because I don't want to make it a mom and versus dad thing. Because statistically, women are worse at paying child support than men. Different subject. We'll get into that. But if you're non-custodial and the children are paying, and your children or your child is with you and staying overnight so many times, that means that you shouldn't have to be sending money over there when the child is over here for this amount of time.
Okay.
So what I typically encourage is if you can't get a custodial of like a joint physical custody order established, you want your parenting time order to reflect the amount of time that the child is with you. Okay. So if you know your schedule allows you to have your child 3 days out the week, you figure it's only 7 days. That's almost 50% of the time. That's a week is only 3.5 days, 50% of that. So if your child is with you 3 days out the week, you have this child support order that's supposed to be standard, but they're going to have to cut it because that child is with you almost half the time. Even if mom or even if the custodial parent has full physical custody. But if it's on paper saying that this child is with you 3 days out the week throughout the year, then the child support order is going to reflect that.
So let me ask you this then. How do you, let's say you have a situation where you can't get the mom to get it on paper that you have your child 3 or 4 days a week, but they'll, no, I got the child, every week and you just got them every other weekend. And that's what the paper, no, I got the child, every week and you just got them every other weekend. And that's what the paper will reflect. However, in actuality, you sitting there with your kid 3-4 days a week, overnights. But yet, so as a parent, as a father or mother, whoever, as a non-custodial, how do you prove that in court?
You have to go. You don't prove it. You have it modified. You have it modified. You go to the courts and say, this is where my child is with. I would like to modify the current parenting time order to reflect what's actually happening. The court order says that she's with me every Wednesday and every other week, when in actuality, this is where she is.
But the mom say no.
Depends on the mom. Sometimes the moms, it's easier if the moms say, yeah, that's true. And then, they do it.
But if the mom say no,
but if the mom don't, it has nothing to do with mom.
If the non-custodial says no, it's not, I don't want to modify this order because the non-custodial wants to keep on getting the child support money.
It's not up to
the custodial wants to keep getting the child support money, and then as long as they got their child support money, once this is over, when we get back home, you can get the baby as much as you want. Like, how do you, as the non-custodial, prove or get yourself that additional parenting time if you were at odds with the other parent?
I would do, and this is a trade secret, but I think everybody needs to hear this. Conversation shouldn't be over the phone. Text.
Okay.
Text something as simple as, I'm on my way to pick her up. I'm on my way to pick them up for the time. And then when you get ready to drop them off, I'm on my way dropping them off.
Okay.
So now you didn't put a time stamp.
Okay.
You're continuously do that, because if you think about it, for them it doesn't seem like anything out of the norm. You just letting them know when you're dropping them off, letting them know when you're picking them up. Now you can print them text messages like, here, Your Honor, look,
I have my child.
This is what's actually happening. You can see when I'm dropping them off. You can see when I'm picking them up. Blah 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 blah. Boom, you got it. There's your proof.
Okay.
So regardless of what mom says or the custodial parent, because they ain't got it, it's up to them. Once that goes on paper, now the child support order has to be modified because the child is spending a more substantial amount of time with you. Cool. So I always recommend that as well, is if you have a parenting time order and you go to pick the child up and mom or the custodial is not letting you see the child, record that situation. Record it.
You mean like actual video recording?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I recommend doing that.
Can that be used in front of the referee? You can bring that recording in?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I always recommend that. So, real quick, because I know this has been a hot topic.
Yeah.
Child support is not for your rent. It's not for your utility bills. It's not for your car note. It's not for any of that. It's for your child. Now, the confusion comes in because custodial parents, predominantly moms, say, well, I need those things because of I have the child and I got to take the child. Those bills you will have, you're going to have those bills if you didn't have a child. When they calculate, when they use the formula, they're not using your rent to determine how much child support you should get or you shouldn't get. And I always try to break it down like this. If they're using your rent, then they have to use the non-custodial's rent. So let's just use mom and dad. It makes it easier. Say mom thinks she's supposed to get more child support for the rent. What if dad's rent is higher? So should the child support go down because dad's rent is higher? Okay. What if mom gets Section 8 and she only paid $25 a month? So should your child support go down simply because now you have a low amount of rent? What if your baby mom's or your ex-wife is living with family and she don't pay no rent? How do you divvy up electricity if you got more than one child by more than one man? You can't do that. And they'll say, oh well, I got a one bed. If I didn't have kids, I wouldn't need a 2 or 3 bedroom. Okay, let's just use that. For example, 1 bedroom is $500, right? I'm just throwing out some numbers. 2 bedroom, because your child is there, $650. Okay, so that's a $150 difference. So now, since both of y'all responsibility, now y'all have to split that $150 to $75. But what if you got more than one child by more than one person? They sharing that, and that child is sharing that same room. You see how it doesn't make sense? Yeah. You see, it doesn't. It's not. Now, it's not to say that you're not going to use it for that, because they can't and we can't. The payer and the courts can't dictate how you use it. But that's not what it's for. Okay.
So what specifically then is child support?
The child support is going to go towards the child's clothing. It's going to go towards the child care. Because if you look at the child support order, it's going to say, if you ever seen the child support order, it'll say medical support, child care, child support. It'll split up. Currently, my child support order for the child care, for the medical care, is higher than the child support order. Because you're supposed to provide medical care and stuff like that. You have child care until that child reaches to the age of 12, and then that drops off. It may be used for the child activities, if they want to play sports and stuff like that, but it's still based on a formula. It's not for your car note. It's not for your rent. It's not for your utilities. It's not for any of those, because none of that is considered in the formula when they calculate child support. They don't even ask you what your rent is. Okay. So it's so regardless of what, and once again, I know for technical and to be correct, we should say custodial and non-custodial, but to make it easier, say mom and dad. Right. So let's say mom is the custodial. Mom has the child the majority of the time. However, when the father has, let's just say mom has 5 days a week, dad has 2. On those 2 days a week, when dad has the child, he's providing food. No bag is needed, clothes, milk, all those type of things. And the dad feels that, okay, the child support that I'm paying doesn't reflect what's being actually spent on the child. What makes them think it doesn't reflect? Well, because if you've got them 2 days a week. Well, I'm going to use what you're saying. If you're saying all the child support is supposed to be spent on is daycare, child care, child support, and medical. And dad says, hey, mom has Medicaid for the kids. You're not paying for the insurance. Mom has auntie watching the child while she goes to work at her part-time job. She's not paying daycare. Food, yeah. Rent and lights, not my child support, not for rent and lights. Gas, cable, car, no, my child support isn't for that. So if a father feels on top of that the money isn't going directly towards the child's needs, and then the father is saying, now when I have the child, I am also paying for food. I am also paying for things that, let's transfer the next one. I'm also paying for the things that the child needs. Can you kind of break down for the parents who feel that way, how they calculate that child support formula so it makes sense? So if that parent is paying $600 a month, $700 a month, and that
father is only making, $18 an hour, $17 an hour, whatever the case may be. How do you reconcile that with them to make that make sense?
This kind of reminds me of that quote from Training Day, Denzel Washington. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Okay.
But again, first we have to go back that this child support order is based on mom's income and your income.
Okay.
So dad might feel that he's paying more than what he should have. And if he feels that way, if he legitimately feels that way, you can request a modification. It may or may not work.
Okay.
It depends. It depends on each circumstance. But again, that child support order, now the original child support order is going to be based on that formula. And there's ways they can deviate from the formula. They do have the discretion to deviate from the formula, because in my situation, when I got divorced, they deviated from the formula.
So once again,
go ahead.
The courts has the discretion to deviate from the formula.
They do.
Okay.
And it depends on the circumstances.
Okay.
But simply going in there and just saying, well, I don't think that what I'm paying is going to the child. It's like prove it. Like what exactly do you mean? Because you could be paying this certain amount, and mom gets the money. Say you're paying $500 a month, and mom is juggling these bills and doing whatever. And she takes her money and spends it on something for the child, and then once she gets your child support, just replace the money that she's already spent. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just have to juggle it. Sometimes you just have to move it. So you can't really just simply say, well, I feel that I don't think that it's going towards my child. You really have to have some reasonable explanation and reasonable reason to feel and to see that it's not going towards the child, because they're not less likely to just deviate from it because that's just the way that you feel. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Have you seen in your experiences situations where once again, we'll say father, has not had to pay child support with a non-50-50 split?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's because the custodial, the mother, wasn't receiving state aid. You can opt out of child support.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can simply opt out of it. But 9 times out of 10, if you're opting out, that means neither parent is receiving state aid.
Okay. So let me ask this then, piggybacking on that. Can a mother opt out of child support if she's receiving state aid?
No.
So there's no way possible that if she's getting food stamps, Medicaid, anything like that, because the state is covering those charges, the father has to pay child support.
And technically, the father is, because the father is paying the state. The father is paying the state back. Yeah. So when you use that example that mom is getting Medicaid and dad is providing health insurance through his job, dad is turning around paying the state back for that. So technically, dad is paying 100%. Yeah. I brought this up to the court. We've had our conversations.
What is the court's thought on that?
I'm part of a consortium.
Okay.
So it's community organizations that sit down with the administrator, the friend of the court, and we talk about stuff like this. Okay. So I'm like, y'all double dipping. I told the president, I'm like, y'all double dipping. You double dipping because you making him pay. I'm like state aid. I'm like, child support, this state aid should be sent out as a zero interest loan. Follow me here. Send it out as a zero interest loan. Whether it's Medicaid, whether it's food stamps, and you send it out. Dad has to pay his portion. The non-custodial has to pay their portion. As long as mom or the custodial parent is on it. Once that mom or custodial parent is off, now you got to pay your portion. Pay it half. There's a zero interest, so you're not paying interest on top of it. You just paying because obviously it takes both to take care of the child. It's the responsibility of both. But if you're getting state aid, I'm paying it. You're just using it. You know?
And just curious, what was their response to the zero interest loan?
Oh my, no, they wasn't having that. They wasn't. They were looking at me. They were looking at me sideways like I was crazy. But I think we didn't deviate out. What was the original question?
Yeah, definitely. But that's the whole point, though, man. I just going bouncing different questions off of you because I hear a lot of people, complaining about the child support system, both male, female, man, and woman, things of that nature, and just kind of.
I mean, child support is, as a father, child support. If you're not in the home with the child support is to support the child because of your absence. It's supposed to help with the needs of that child because you're removed from that household where the child is at predominantly. That's simply what child support is for. It's not trying to send you to the poorhouse. And 9 times out of 10, if your child support order is so high, it's probably because you haven't reported that your income has changed.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, another scenario. Let's say me and my baby mom, we've been together for, 10 years. Mm-hmm. The whole life of the child is 10. Mm-hmm. At age 10, me and baby mom, we break up. Mm-hmm. Baby mom go her way, I go my way. Mm-hmm. For the next following 2 years, baby mom just say, just throw me $200 a month, cover daycare, half a daycare, whatever, and we good. Say, okay. Mm-hmm. We do that for 2 years. End of those 2 years, me and baby mom get into an argument. Mm-hmm. Baby mom says she gonna put me on child support. Can she go back and put me on child support retroactively from day one if we were not married and that child is now 12 years old?
No, more than like, they're gonna start from that point.
From what point?
From the point when she filed.
So automatically, the rumor that I've always heard is the moment you're put on child support, you're automatically in the hole $10,000. That
can happen.
Okay.
And it happened to me.
Okay.
But they had to fix it because they was totally off with it.
Okay.
So the reason why most of the time you're in that arrearage is because of the cost of the birth of the child.
Okay.
So you get thrown into those arrearages automatically as soon as that baby is born, hospital costs and stuff like that.
Is that assuming the child is on state aid, or is that state aid or not?
Yeah, because the child is on state aid.
Okay.
But if the child's not on state aid, they're going to automatically go from the point where she filed. Mm-hmm. They had my parenting time order. See, when my ex-wife and I had split, we were living in separate households. Mm-hmm. But we were living within a 5-mile radius of each other, so they would be with me for a week, they would be her for a week. It was literally 50-50. So when I went to the courts, now mind you, I'm have all this knowledge. I know how to work with the courts. I simply went into the courts and said, hey, I like to put on paper what we're already doing. Mm-hmm. They're staying with her for this time week. They're staying with me. They're like, okay. So it was basically a 50-50 child support order. They still want to get some child support from somebody, but my child support order was so low, it's almost ridiculous.
So let me ask you this then, just for the petty patrol. If you got them 50% and mom got them 50%, why are you paying child support?
They got to get some money.
So what's the legal reasoning for that? Because, a lot of guys feel like the system is against them.
Yeah. And I can see why.
Okay.
But she was still receiving state aid.
So that happens when the mom is receiving state aid.
Yeah, see, there may be cases where it's 50-50 and nobody has to pay. But
because state aid isn't involved.
Because state aid isn't involved.
The moment state aid is involved, somebody got to pay that bill.
Because they're going to tell her, if you don't report this information, we're going to take your state aid. Mm. So mom, and sometimes it's not mom being petty. It's mom being, she needs help, health insurance and stuff like that for the kids.
Okay.
And so the state is basically telling her, if you don't provide us with the information that we need for child support, we'll take your state aid or reduce it. Okay. So that puts them in that position.
Okay.
And stuff like that. But yeah, there are cases where it can be completely 50-50 split and nobody pays.
Okay.
And there's cases where, and I don't mind telling, but mine for 3 children, I pay $130 a month. There's nothing. For 3.
Is state aid involved?
Yes.
So even with a parent receiving state aid, child support for 3 children is $130 a month.
No, that's my order, but see, they deviated from mine. Yeah. They deviated because her and I initially actually had a plan on how much I was just going to, because I told her, I was like, we don't really necessarily have to. I'm like, I can get you this bank card and I'll just have my direct deposit just go into it automatically.
So let me ask
stuff
this,
like that.
I'm not gonna
but it was crazy because they end up getting less than what we negotiated. You see what I'm saying? By going to the courts.
So that's with you and mom working together, though, correct? Y'all kind of, whatever the child support was, whatever the deviation were, that's what y'all two kind of working together and not being in front of the referee at odds with each other.
No, because it was divorce court because we were married. Yeah, it was divorce court and stuff like that. But now, I mean, even with that, I mean, the kids, they got Cash App now. Back then, there wasn't no Cash App. So, Dad, I need this. Matter of fact, when I leave here, I got to go buy my daughter some shoes for her birthday. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it helps when the parents can co-parent together and have a good relationship. It does make things easier. It makes things help. But a lot of times, it's not the mom just wilding out. I ain't gonna say a lot of times. Sometimes it's not the mom wilding out. Sometimes she's put in a position by the state where she has to do that, you know.
And that's kind of where you come into play, because you can help guide both mothers and fathers in this situation on how to navigate through the child support system. So the courts, the parenting time, and the child support being separate.
Yep, I got clients that's in their 40s and 50s that are still paying child support for their child, and the children are grown. And I help them get rid of the arrearages, like completely erase their arrearages and stuff like that.
I got one last question for you, and then we got to get close to wrapping up because we had about an hour.
Okay.
My thing's getting blown up. Everybody got a million and one questions.
Oh, we got questions on there?
Oh, yeah. I'm not about to go through all that.
Oh, man. So we live?
Yeah. I put a little bit of it live, just kind of this part, because I kind of figured, for whatever the case may be, I already knew. We're going to have to do a part 2.
Okay.
Sometime soon. Okay. I just kind of wanted to put it out there, what you do. Because a lot of my personal friends have had a lot of these questions, a lot of these issues, and feel like they don't know where to turn. Some of them are have legit issues. Some of them just be on that board.
Right, and I can fish that out.
So, but here's the question that I want to ask to somebody.
Right, and I can fish that out.
So, but here's the question that I want to ask that somebody asked me a while ago. Can you be put on child support for a child that has been proven by tests that the child is not yours, if you don't somehow respond in a timely manner or something? Like, how does that work?
Wow, good question. So, there's been some laws and some things have changed in the state of Michigan. If a woman is married and is pregnant, the child automatically belongs to the husband, whether DNA proves it or not. So if DNA proves that the husband is not the father, the child belongs to the marriage, not the guy. So automatically. But 2012, they had what's called the 2012 Parental Revocation Act. Okay. This is why I tell my clients, if you're named as the father of a child and you're summoned, go. Okay. Don't run. Go to the courts to establish paternity. If you don't show, you're saying yes by default. So now, and then you find out later, now you want to go back 5 years because the child 5 years old and look nothing like you, and you get a DNA test, and the test shows that the child is not yours. Should have went. Because the state is not going to bastardize the child. So now you're the father because...
And going forward, you're the father.
You're the father.
So there's nothing you can do to change that.
Ain't nothing you can do. But with the parenting time, the Parental Revocation Act now, it gives you a time frame, I think from birth to like 3 years. So if you become suspect that the child is not yours, you can now go get a DNA test, even if there is a child support order and you've established paternity and it comes back that it's not yours, then they can make changes. But they're not going to bastardize the child simply because you decided now to get a DNA test when they gave you that opportunity in the beginning to get that DNA test. Man, I got some stories about some clients, man. This one woman, this is some years back, she, this was when that law was in effect. She had an affair on her husband. She got pregnant by her side dude. Husband found out. He moved to Maryland. The Commonwealth filed for divorce there, so they had jurisdiction. They didn't have that law there, but they still had that law here in Michigan. So in the Maryland Commonwealth, he's not the father because DNA does not match. But in the state, the real dad does not is not the father because it belongs to the husband. So she gets child support from nobody.
Gangster. That's great. All right, man. We're gonna have to wrap it up a little, man. I got a minute more question I want to ask. We're gonna
started it over, so we can do it
We can do a part 2.
Yeah, I got
I didn't even know we was live. So was this like on Facebook or something?
No, we're recording actual for the show. I just got a little bit of it live on Facebook. No,
okay.
Just when you got into that little child support part, just a little bit.
Oh yeah, so they probably I'm gonna check my inbox. They probably hit me on the inbox like, nigga.
Yeah, so just one thing I do want to do, once again, let's go ahead and plug your company, man, and what you do, how people can reach out to you, how they can contact you.
Okay. If you in Washington, Western Wayne County, you can reach out directly to SOS Community Services, or you can give me a call, 734-660-7672. Or if you're looking for me directly on Facebook, it's Kawame Saladin. I'm gonna give my personal number right now. Just hit me up through there. I'll catch you.
Email or anything they can get up at as well.
Yeah, currykawame@gmail.com. You can, but you know what? Even you can hit me through my work. You can hit me through that work phone number too. If you're just looking, if you're not in Washington, Western Wayne, you can use that as well. That's the company cell.
Okay, cool, man. I appreciate you for coming out. Thank you for being patient, because we was on CP time today, man. So thank you for being patient with us, man. And yeah, that'll wrap it up.